I didn't feel like putting much effort into my outfit. It's a Saturday and I can do what I want because I'm a fully grown adult. And I thought we would just kind of chill out a little bit in this video and just kind of drab up a little bit. If you don't know me, my name is Lauren and I'm a traditionally published author as well as a book and publishing strategist. And my goal is to educate, inspire, provide advice, insight, commentary on the publishing process and more for aspiring authors. And speaking of aspiring authorship, it took me a good 5 years to write my first book. It came out this past spring, June of 2023, and it's called The Finer Things Club. And it is a coming-of-age memoir all about my experience living and working in Yellowstone National Park as a housekeeper. That's a mouthful, but that's what I tell everyone when they ask what the book is about. That's like my pitch, which is something that you can learn more about by visiting laurenerickson.substack.com. Little shameless plug to get us started on the right foot. Anyway, I thought I would read sections from the very first draft of the book and compare it to the final versions of the scenes in the published book, if that makes any sense. I wrote this draft, I think, I don't know, it had to have been around 2018, 2019, so it's about 4 or 5 years ago. And it's not beautiful. It's not really pretty. It's got coffee stains on it. I thought we could just read a couple scenes that I've flagged from this book, cringe a little bit, cry a little bit together, chuck it out the window a little bit together. Let this serve as inspiration for those of you out there who are looking to publish your own books as well. For those of you who are working on your first drafts currently, let's just not procrastinate or stall anymore. We'll just get right into it, I suppose. Oh my God, I forgot. I wrote the whole thing in Comic Sans font because I heard a rumor somewhere that if you did that, it would spark creativity even more. I can't say that it really did. It was just hard to look at. Good Lord. All Comic Sans. Are you kidding me? Oh, this is not a proud moment. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. This one was an interaction with a park ranger that I thought was being a little sexist. That's how it came across to me. We were trying to get details on this hike and register for like a camping hiking permit, and this guy was just giving us a hard time. We're wanting to purchase a backcountry permit and maybe see if there are any campsites available around Dog's Head Trail for tomorrow night. Dog's Head Trail, you say? Frank tested. And Frank, in fact, is the sexist park ranger that I'm referring to. That's a pretty long trail. You sure you guys are up for it? Not at all, Frank. That was actually just an April Fool's joke and you passed. Yeah, we've got 2 other guys coming with us, so there will be 4 total, she said. Okay, he said. Then we were handed a permit after paying $10 for it that asked us which hike we were doing, how many days we'd be gone, how many total people were in the party, make and model of my car, and information like that. I filled it out, and Frank instructed me to keep that on the dashboard of my vehicle so it could be properly seen. He kept a copy of it. Okay, so comparison time. And by the way, Sarah in this version is the name of my roommate. Sarah and I looked at each other, silently deciding who should be the first to break the silence. Ultimately, she was the one to initiate. Hi, she smiled with that lovely charm of hers. We're looking at maybe getting a permit and registering for a campsite somewhere along the Dog's Head Loop Trail, please. He took a long breath in. Well, he finally said in a dark, raspy voice, drawing out the vowel as he exhaled. That trail's still got a decent amount of snow and you're more likely to encounter bears in the backcountry. His response caught me off guard. In a weird way, I was a little taken aback by Frank's lack of, shall we say, spirit for helping 2 young women navigate the park. I guess I shouldn't have been, though, since he didn't even greet us when we came in the door. He only glanced in our direction before he returned his attention back to whatever he was doing behind the reception desk. Right, but we heard it was open. We've also got bear bags and stuff, Sarah answered. Did he just roll his eyes at us? I may have imagined it. It happened a little too quick to say. It is open, and it's going to take more than a bear bag to stay safe in the backcountry. You're going to need bear spray for each of you, and those can be expensive, he said. We've got 2, I replied before Sarah could speak, feeling my cheeks beginning to heat up. He's not trying to discourage the 2 of us from hiking, is he? Employees get it for 40% off at the general store, and we got ours upon arrival. He failed to acknowledge my response. If you take this trail, you're also going to be crossing through a pretty good stream of water, about 3 feet deep with a current. We know how you cross streams. You unbuckle all the latches of your pack before crossing it so it doesn't weigh you down if you get swept underwater, I countered. If Sarah didn't know that before, she did now. He gave us a hard look, his expression stiffer than before. You got anyone else coming with you? Yes, 3 other people, Sarah said. 1 girl and 2 guys. Frank seemed to be considering this, making silent judgments in his head. Without speaking, he pulled out what looked like a planner and began listing off the available campsites. I feel like those two are kind of similar, but again, it just feels like I took the time to offer more context. I would say that the attitude is still there, but it just seems more experiential in the final version. Next section. Okay, so I mentioned that this book is about me working in housekeeping, but I haven't read any scenes about the work. So this is what this scene is, and it's about me narrowly escaping the dirtiest room that I've ever come across. The smell hit us like a Jackie Chan flying drop kick. Oh my God. Yeah, all right. It was so putrid. We had to open all the doors and windows because the stench had been stifled inside the cabin for so long. Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention, this is me working outside in the cabins because when I was working in Yellowstone, there was the hotel, there was this like motel version of it, and then there were these cabins, like individual little cottages. So this was me working outside in the cottages. Clyde, who's my inspector, he inspects the work that us housekeepers do, walked in with us completely exposed to explain how this all happened. Apparently, someone got sick and used the toilet paper after throwing up into it. The poor toilet ended up so stopped up that it overflowed with feces and vomit onto the linoleum bathroom floor, eventually seeping into the neighboring carpet that covered the rest of the cabin. There was a distinct shading difference between the regular carpet and the saturated one. I still remember that room. I still remember the shadows in the carpet. I remember it all. That description does not do it justice. Does not do it justice. Reading that felt like seeing a picture of a sunset. You know what I mean? Where it's like when you see it in person, all the colors are like gorgeous and you're like, oh my God, I had to document this somehow. And then when you take a picture, like all the colors are muted and it's like it doesn't look the same. That's what reading that felt like. And it was made 10 times worse because of the fact that it was in Comic Sans. Let's move on to the better version. The smell hit us like a train, even through our masks. It was so putrid, we had to open all the doors and windows because the stench had been stifled inside the cabin for so many hours. Wow, it's almost verbatim. Okay. I didn't realize that made the cut. The guests didn't tell us about this until a few hours after leaving, Clyde said, walking toward the bathroom inside. Management must have mentioned that to him before he requested volunteers. Apparently one of the guests here was sick and tried to use the toilet after throwing up into it. Ended up getting pretty backed up and overflowed onto the floor. Even through the soles of my shoes, I could feel the receding carpet squish with every step I took. It reminded me of that childhood game I used to play where I would pretend the floor was lava, except now it was feces and vomit mixed with toilet water. It would be a massive understatement to say I regretted volunteering. Piper and I, and she was my coworker that I was working with on this, Piper and I had barely spoken when Clyde continued on, revealing more and more about the cabin like it was a classic story. For me, it was a nightmare that only got worse. Yeah, it's been sitting here for a while now. We called the biohazard team earlier to clean some of it up, but they had to leave to get more supplies. They should be coming back later, so in the meantime, we'll just be cleaning up around the edges a little. It was moments like these that reminded me that kindness itself could be a curse. I feel like I did a pretty good job explaining all of this. If it grosses you out, then I did my job. But really, overall, I'm feeling pretty decent about how I described this. It's way better than, how many paragraphs was this? 4? This story was fit into 4 paragraphs. The one in here is fit into 1 to 9 paragraphs. I think that had to have been the grossest day of my life. Did I get a pay raise? No. Was I getting paid $9 an hour to clean that room? Absolutely. Was there a tip? No, because why would there be? Actually, I think the worst tip, and I didn't even know that you were supposed to tip housekeepers when I started working, but the worst tip I ever got had to have been like 5 cents in a business card for like some photography company in Delaware or something. Like at that point, if you're going to tip your housekeepers and change, just keep your money at that point. Because if I'm working a 10-hour day, the last thing I want to do is put a wad of change into my pocket to jingle for the remainder of my shift. This next scene is when some friends and I were camping in the Grand Tetons National Park, which is, I don't know, probably a couple hours south. And I think that was probably, in contrast, one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. And in this story, I called in sick to work because it was the day after the 4th of July, and you can fill in the blanks. This is about waking up at like 4 in the morning and like seeing this amazing view after I made my phone call calling in sick. Walking back, I felt a sense of relief and rejuvenation. My stomach unclenched, my head felt clearer, and I could return as lazily as I had come to the lukewarm sleeping bag waiting for me. That was clunky. Dorian and Gretchen, who were friends and coworkers of mine, were still sleeping in their same positions when I returned, and the coal was still smoking. Everything smelled earthy and real. That was okay. By contrast, I took a deep breath in, allowing all the tension in my stomach to be exhaled by the world, away from me. Then I closed my eyes, willing my body to become still and grounded before leaving the car. After a few more breaths, I opened them slowly and stepped out, planting my feet one at a time onto the solid ground, kicking up a minuscule cloud of dust. I clicked the door shut and walked around to the other side of the car, where I came face to face with the Grand Teton mountain range. All around its jagged edges, the soft colors of the morning began to take full bloom. The pink glow from just a minute ago had now melted into various shades of lavender and cyan, swirling around the tips of the peaks. The morning sun, barely peeking across the horizon, sent a warm cascading glow across the ice caps and the wildflower-covered prairie land below. I could only stand and stare. That, I feel like, does it more justice. That is definitely a better example of the whole taking a picture of the sunrise thing that I mentioned. I can only describe it as satisfying. Ha ha ha. This was such a fun memory. Okay, so I went to Yellowstone twice. It was my first season and my second season. This one was in my second season when I had a different roommate and our birthdays were kind of close together. So we ate in this like fancy hotel dining room at the Lake Yellowstone Hotel, and we ate in there for her 21st birthday. So we were a little suave. It was a much better evening compared to my 21st birthday. This is about that experience. When we arrived, we ordered a massive plate of fingerling fries. It came on a huge square plate with 2 dipping sauces. When it was time to place our main course order, I requested the organic beet and goat cheese salad, and Sophia, who was my roommate, ordered the lobster seafood ravioli, which the waitress highly recommended even though it was an appetizer. To commemorate this auspicious occasion, we ordered a whole $31 bottle of champagne just for us. Mindy, our waitress, brought us one of those bottle holders filled with ice and a napkin draped over the side. As we dined, we weren't sure if we were supposed to wait for her to come back to tend to our drinks or not, so we took it upon ourselves to refill our own glasses. People started watching, so we figured we probably weren't supposed to. We kept doing it anyway. We topped off our banqueting excursion with the sticky toffee pudding, also per Mindy's recommendation, and blueberry cobbler cheesecake. That's almost like a synopsis of the scene. All right, on to the next one. So I hired an editor before getting published to go through my manuscript to make sure that it was like polished and looked good. And I remember in her notes back to me in my manuscript, she said that this was probably her favorite scene in the whole book. When the champagne and fries came around, we wasted no time. We dug our fingers into the little basket, plunging them into the aioli, while the waiter filled our glasses with the sparkling wine. Then he wrapped the open bottle in a fancy linen towel before lowering it into a tall, fancy ice bucket in the middle of the table, like it was our centerpiece. Afterward, we gave him our orders and toasted Sophia's birthday with fingers coated in a thin layer of grease and garlic salt. Before long, we were beginning to feel a slight buzz. We'd only had one glass, but I explained to her that when you mix the altitude with being lightweight, anything can pack a punch. With that in mind, we slowed our intake and temporarily retreated to our water glasses until the food arrived. We were quiet for a while, taking in the delicate tastes and aromas of our dishes. The clanking and clinking of dishes and glasses sounded around us, as did the idle chatter of various couples and families at the other surrounding tables. It was a full house tonight. Then we began swapping foods with each other, looking left and right before stretching our forks across the table to swipe a taste of the other's entree, violating a few etiquette rules. That's really good. Wow, yours is delicious. Oh my God, what's that seasoning? I want to marry your sauce. By the end of the night, we had finished the entire bottle and most of the food. We were stuffed to the brim, delirious with exquisite satisfaction. It's a good thing we're wearing dresses, I thought to myself. That way we don't have to unbutton our pants. Our waiter returned. How are we feeling, ladies? Fantastic. Phenomenal. He gave a wide grin with a few nods. Wonderful. Did we save any room for dessert? Sophia and I stared at each other across the table. How much money do we have left? I asked. $20. Tipsy on rich food and $30 champagne, we agreed to get dessert. What do you recommend? Soph asked once again. I personally like the sticky toffee pudding. It's a toffee sauce poured over a dollop of whipped cream and sponge cake with chopped dates, he relayed, having memorized it from the menu. While she thought, I peered down at the menu and took time to think about what I wanted as well. I'll give the toffee pudding a go, Soph finally said. What do you want, Lauren? I think the vanilla bean brulee cheesecake sounds amazing. I'll take one of those, I said, looking up at him, doing my best to focus my eyes. He nodded once. Very good. I'll get those 2 items started for you both. Thank you, we sang together. Oh my gosh, I remember that memory so well, and it still feels very true to the tone of the evening and just like how fun it was. I think that was probably one of my most favorite evenings hanging out with someone, because like it's nice to go on these big adventures and like do all these crazy backcountry outdoors things, and then it's nice to be able to have the opportunity to just feel a little special in the middle of the Wyoming woods in like a little hotel dining room, you know? All right, last one. This is the very end of the book. Even when I wrote this first draft, I remember really having a good feeling about what I wrote. So this is probably a good way to end the video. Just for some context, this was the last night that a lot of my friends and I were going to be together before we all went back home and like returned to our normal lives and stuff. So this is just me recognizing that like this is the last time we're all going to be together in the same place. I was proud of every single person in the room for being here out of all the places in the world to work. But mostly, I was proud of myself. I got to do this whole thing twice. I took on the mountains twice, I scrubbed toilets twice, I met people all over again twice, and I got to visit my oldest living friend twice. I was so completely enamored by all the things I got to do twice. For years, I wished for a circle of like-minded people, my people, and they were never known at home. It was only until now that I realized that they were waiting for me out here the whole time, and now here we are. All together. My impatient desires have at last been released like cage butterflies into the world, and I've never seen such beautiful colors before. I belonged here so wonderfully. I belonged among the finer things. You know what? I think that's almost exactly the same as what's at the end of the book. From what I recall, I think this is going to be pretty similar. 14 of us pulled in together, collectively wearing our Aztec pattern jerseys, for one final picture that would mark one of the most prominent moments of our youth. While that picture was being taken, I felt proud of every single person in the room for coming here, out of all of the places in the world to work. But mostly, I was proud of myself for getting to do this whole thing twice. I took on the mountains twice, scrubbed hundreds of toilets twice, made friends all over again twice, and got to live in Yellowstone National Park twice. I was so completely enamored by all the things I got to do twice. For years, I'd spent my nights hunched over the pages of my journals, pouring my heart's wishes and desires into countless blank pages in an attempt to manifest a circle of like-minded individuals. It wasn't until now that I finally realized that they were all waiting for me out here the whole time. Although there is an unmistakable feeling of bittersweetness tonight, I couldn't help but feel that my only option was to feel gratitude. Gratitude for the changes, the uncharted territory, the challenges, but most importantly, the belonging, both to myself and the park. My impatient desires had at last been released like cage butterflies into the world, and I'd never seen such beautiful colors before. I belonged here so wonderfully. I belonged among the finer things. I love that ending so much. I am still so proud of how I ended that book, and those who've read it have also said how much they like the end of it, but my goodness, little poet am I. Aren't I? I am. Thank you for watching this video. It was kind of fun to go down memory lane a little bit and just like look back and see how far I've come within my whole book authorship process. With that all being said, I hope you got something out of this video. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. My handle is Lauren Erickson, but the O in my last name is a 0 because someone took the regular one. I'm very active on there. And I also talk a lot about how to reach your publication goals and what to know about the publishing business on my Substack, which is lauren.substack.com. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.